Hi, fourth graders. Mrs. Somick here, and today we are going to have some fun with some passages and just reviewing over some great reading skills here with some winter themed passages I've selected, obviously, as we approach our holiday season here. So, we're going to kind of revisit a skill that we've already worked on kind of towards the beginning of the year, but it's on this idea of what is the main idea. Okay, so many times you've heard maybe your teacher say to you, well, what's the big idea of the passage? Or what is the main idea? And what are those supporting details? So as I go to our next slide here, what do I mean by main idea and details? Well, like I said before, the main idea really is where we as readers can identify what our story is mostly about. Well, how do you go about doing that? I always tell my students, to figure out the main idea, you have two major questions to answer. Who and what are you talking about in the passage? Okay. So when we're looking through these strategies, ask yourself, what is the selection mostly about? See if you can figure out what that topic is, your who. Okay. Also, look at the title. If there is a title in the passage, many times your title will be the topic. Obviously, look at your pictures. Your picture clues you've known for a long time as readers can kind of hint to what the passage is mostly about. This next one, a lot of times our authors will state our main idea in the first or the last sentence. So it's always good as readers to go back and revisit that first and last sentence if you're really just struggling to figure out your who and what, your main idea. And then, of course, look and see if there's clue words. There's just words that are repeated throughout to really hit home on what our passage is mostly about today. Okay? All right, friends. So with those strategies in mind, I have one particular passage that we're going to do together. There are two other ones in your Google form that I will talk about here shortly that you will complete on your own for me. And then there's a mystery picture at the very end that we'll discuss if you'd like to print that off. Okay? All right. So first off, I can already see right here I have a title. And what does the title tell me? My topic. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up my highlighter. And as we always joke, Mrs. Somick is not the best when it comes to highlighting, but I'm going to do my best here. And I can see that right there, I've got my topic right there, winter bees. So I know this whole paragraph is going to be about winter bees. Now, after I read it, I want us to try to figure out if we can figure out what the main idea is, and we're going to circle it, and then we're going to underline the details that support it. All right, well, let's get busy reading first. When the weather starts turning cold, birds fly south and bears hibernate. But what about bees? Like every other creature on Earth, bees have their own unique way of coping with cold weather during the winter season. If the temperature drops below 50 degrees, bees gather in the center of the hive and form a winter cluster. A winter cluster is much like a huddle you may have seen at a football game, except it lasts all winter. Their main job is to keep the queen bee safe and warm. To stay warm, the worker bees flutter their wings and shiver. This constant motion and use of energy keeps the inside temperature of the hive warm. Worker bees rotate from the outside to the inside of the cluster so no individual bee gets too cold. Honeybees work hard to stay warm in their hive. So who and what am I talking about? Well, I see something here about bees. I know here we're talking about bees. And what is it about bees that we're learning about? Well, during the wintertime, there's things they have to do to stay warm like the rest of us, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead here and look back through. Do you see a main idea sentence maybe towards the beginning or the end that kind of hits home here about our main idea? I see right here, like every other creature on Earth, the bees have their own unique way of coping with cold weather during the winter season. So I'm going to circle that sentence right here. Okay. And that's going to help me see that, this whole passage is about how bees cope with the cold weather. Maybe you were looking down here, the final statement here, honeybees work hard to stay warm in the winter. That too would really hit home as far as our main idea. So it's about bees and staying warm in the winter. Now my details on my underline are going to be, how do they stay warm? What do they do to stay warm? Well, the first thing we learn is that they form a winter cluster. And what is the winter cluster? Okay, it says here that they gather together, right, in the center of the hive and form a winter cluster. It's kind of like the huddle during a football game, right? So they huddle together. So there's my first detail. Now, what else do they do to stay warm? Oh, look at these clue words right here. To stay warm, the worker bees will flutter their wings and shiver, right? Because that motion keeps them warm. Anything else? There's one other thing they do. Look right here. Our worker bees, they also rotate from the outside to the inside of the cluster. So every bee gets to kind of work their way back inside towards the center of the cluster to stay a little warm. Okay. So we have 3 separate supporting details that really talks about how bees stay warm in the winter. So we have marked up our text here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that text evidence that we have found to help us with question number 1. Okay, so do you remember what we said our main idea was here? If we go back to the passage, and I always like to, friends, find it first and then find an answer that would match it. Remember what we circled? Remember they have their own unique way, right, of how to cope with that cold weather during the winter season. So let's find something that would match that evidence. Is it about how queen bees are so important? No, I'm going to slash and trash. This does not match our main idea sentence here. Okay, let's look at B. How honeybees survive cold temperatures in the winter. Is it about coping with the cold weather? These are pretty similar. So I'm just going to put a little dot. Some of you may underline it because I'm not ready to circle it because I want to check all my answer choices first. Now let's look at the last one. How to create a winter cluster. Well, I see the word winter cluster, but was it what the whole passage was about? No. So this one here would not be my main idea. This is a supporting detail. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and circle B as my answer, and I can slash and trash. See, I've eliminated it. Now, some of you may say, well, what's with the word brown next to this question? I'm going to revisit that and talk about it very shortly here because we're going to have a mystery picture at the end, and that's going to let you know what to color in all the number 1s on the mystery picture. All right, let's try another question here on the next slide. Again, it's asking, what is the main idea of winter bees? Okay, so again, we know that main idea. Why not? Let's circle it one more time. They have their own unique way, right, of coping with the cold during that winter season. Okay, let's find something that matches it. When the weather turns cold, birds fly south and bears hibernate. But what about bees? Well, that is the first sentence. Does that really hit home of what the whole thing is about? Let's go and continue reading. Maybe we can find something that matches a little bit closer to our main idea here. Okay. B, to stay warm, the worker bees flutter their wings and shiver. Does that match up with our main idea sentence? No, that is a supporting detail. They do flutter, but that's not what the whole thing was about. Like every creature on Earth, bees have their own unique way of coping with the winter season. Does that match what our text evidence shows us? It sure does. So now I know A is not the best answer choice and C would be our best answer. Okay. And now we know that for question number 2 on our mystery picture, we're going to color all my 2s purple. Okay. Let's take a look at one more slide together. Now notice here in my question, I'm not looking for the main idea. I'm looking for a detail. Do you remember those details? We talked about how they form a winter cluster. We talked about how the workers will flutter their wings and shiver. And we also talked about how the worker bees will rotate from the outside to the inside of that cluster. So we have 3 separate details. Let's find one of those details in our answer choices. A, to stay warm, the worker bees flutter their wings and shiver. Does that match one of our details? It sure does. So I'm just going to put a dot so I know to revisit it. Okay, let's look at B. Their main job is to keep the queen bee safe and warm. Is that one of our main ideas about the way they help to stay warm? No, it's in here, but remember, it was all about how they stay warm. Okay, so B would not be the best answer choice for number 3. But let's look at C. A winter cluster is like a football huddle. Was that the focus of the winter cluster? No, the winter cluster, remember, was the way they gathered together to stay warm. It wasn't about describing the winter cluster, okay? So we're going to slash and trash through C because that detail that supports the idea of how they stay warm is right here. The worker bees flutter their wings and shiver, and that matches that detail right here. So now we know all of our number 3s are going to be black. Okay. So what you're going to do here is you can have the option, okay, to print off this sheet in your Google Classroom. And if you'd like to, you can color it in to figure out what this mystery picture is going to be. It is a winter theme kind of idea here, just to give you a hint. And the way you do it is go back and revisit. What did you put for question number 1? So let's go back to number 1 here, question 1. Our answer was B, so therefore all my 1s will be brown. So what you'll do is you'll go to your mystery picture, pick up a brown crayon or colored pencil, and you'll shade in all your 1s brown like so. Notice this one is only half the square, so only color half the square brown. And you're just going to keep on going. So again, if you look at number 2, all the number 2s are going to be purple. So when you find your number 2s on there, I'm going to pick up this purple right here, and you're going to color in all your 2s purple. Okay, now Mrs. Stomach's just doing a very quick little job here. I'm not doing all of it. And you're just going to keep going. Now, I promise, friends, this is going to make some kind of photo or picture, at the very end. So if you want to give that a shot, please do so. I'd love to see if you can send me a picture of it as well. So on your own, you're going to see 2 more passages on winter ideas. Go ahead and finish. There are 9 questions total to help you discover what your mystery picture is going to be. I hope you have a blast enjoying our activity for today. And until next time, make sure you stay tuned.